My guest today is filmmaker Natalia Garcia Agraz, who is a trained photographer as well as a film director and screenwriter. Now, she directed the short film El Último, Romántico in 2019, which was nominated for the 2019 Student Academy Awards and the Ariel Awards. Now, the film screened at over 60 international film festivals, including Tribeca Film Festival, the Los Angeles Film Festival, as well as the Morelia International Film Festival. But as a screenwriter, she has worked on future films and series for Netflix, Amazon, and HBO, including the Mentiras la serie, which broke records in 2025 as the most watched Amazon Prime series in Mexico. Now, she recently directed the short film Passarinho, which has been part of the official selections at Tribeca and Guadalajara and others, and has won awards at the Chicago International Film Festival, as well as FSF Munich and Palm Springs ShortFest. Now, the film is an official selection at the HollyShorts Film Festival. So Passarinho was also nominated for a 2025 Student BAFTA Awards, as well, again, for the Ariel Awards. So let's welcome filmmaker Natalia Garcia Agraz and her newest short film, Passarinho, to the show. Welcome, Natalia.
Hi, thank you for making me the space here.
You're very, very welcome. Well, first off, congratulations for being an official selection at many of the top film festivals and now for Holly Shorts. It must be an incredible ride for this film, Passarinho, for you.
Yes, it's been great, especially to have the opportunity to attend some of the screenings. So it's been really, really beautiful.
So, where did you get the idea for this film?
So this is a very personal film. It's based on an anecdote that happened to me. The first time I got my period, I went to a football stadium with my mother and my best friend, and my mother was having like trouble in her life, and she got really drunk. So when I needed her help, she was very drunk at the stadium, and many of the things that happened in the short film, I wrote them because it was like my way of fictionalizing everything, but the core of the anecdote did happen, and the characters are based, especially in my mother, who is like a little bit crazy.
You know, the the mother in this film is really fun to watch.
Yes.
She's kind of a mess, isn't she?
Yes, and for me, the core of the film is like understanding your parents, and that in their craziness they have like a particular way of loving you, and even if that is desperate, it goes also both ways, like not understanding also like your daughter and not understanding your mother, and then like having this bond moment of understanding and love, I guess.
Well, and that's exactly how I saw this film because at first, of course, like you just said, this is a coming of age story of a teenage girl getting her period for the first time. And, for a young girl, um, what is that experience like from both a mental and physical standpoint?
Yes, so for me it's like a metaphor of coming into another period of your life, but it's also like a natural act that, at least here in Mexico, it's still very a hard topic sometimes to talk about, because we are also like a very Catholic country, and there's like all these religious taboos. So for me, it was important to talk about it in a light way, and that's the reason why I chose comedy. And I chose it when it happened to me. I felt like this is the biggest tragedy of life, and then when I grew older, I realized that it's just something that happens, but it's also something profound and metaphorical. So I wanted to tell that story, but in a comic way, because sometimes it's a very solemn point of view, like becoming a woman and stuff, and I wanted it to be like, okay, it can also be funny, and it can also be a way to bond with your mother in a deeper way.
Well, okay, let me ask this because me being a man, I'm never going to experience that. So, but when a young girl gets her period for the first time, and hopefully someone is there, hopefully their mother is there to kind of explain it. Even for you, When you realized that this was going to happen every month, what was that like?
No, it's strong. Like it's a strong biological thing to be a woman because it's not easy. Even now that I'm an adult, it's like, oh, does this have to happen each month? But for me, it was also important, like this generational change that in the film, the mother tells her daughter, like, when I got my period, nobody explained anything to me, and she even says like the nuns only gave me like these pads, and that is something that my mother told me, like that she was alone and that no one explained anything to her, and that really moved me. So I included it in the film, and then I did like this homage of her being like very close to me and explaining it to me and like making me feel like it was something that every woman has to go through. But I really wanted like to make this empathy moment of the young girl realizing that okay, maybe her mother didn't explain anything to her, but even in her craziness, like she has this very deep love and understanding to accompany her. And I think that's like generational. So I think next generations will have it easier and will have like a different point of view. But yeah, like generations back, I think they had it like way harder.
The thing about this film, because it's so endearing to watch, I think that this film, that even with young teenage girls, if they get to see this film, they're going to understand pretty quickly. So for some of them, the film is going to be a teaching moment.
Yes, I have screened it in festivals for teenagers and even jury teenagers, and that has been like very beautiful because they come to me and they talk to me about it and stuff, and it's really nice. Also, I showed it to my niece who is. She was like 11 years old, and like she started like having more conversations about it and asking me about it and stuff. So it's also nice that it becomes like like a good conversation point about about periods and menstruation and girlhood.
I love, I love short films so much. And I love the variety of the topics that filmmakers can come up with. And especially when a topic like this one comes from a personal experience. So, and not only that, the film will resonate far longer than just the 1 year of a film festival runs. But I saw three elements in this film that you included: fandom, female development, and a mother daughter connection. And this film is so very authentic from all three standpoints. Now, so you included the element of football into the story because you were also a lover of the sport when you were young.
Yes, I was really fanatic of Ronaldinho, which is like the simile of the character that we invented, is Passarinho. And uh, because it happened in real life and I was in a stadium and like all that scenario for me was like really endearing and I wanted like to capture that. But also I like the fact of filming like a very intimate female story like in a very big space that is usually a male space, and I wanted like the story to develop like slowly in this like very male background and like a very huge background because we shot like at a real stadium with a real match going on, so the energy was like really intense, and it was really cute like seeing like my teenage characters like having all their trouble but like in this real setting.
Well, my goodness, how did you or how were you able to film during a real match?
Yeah, that was the hardest part of this film because it was a, well, it is a student film. It's my graduation film, and we barely had a budget, so we just asked permission. Like really, I don't think this film could have been made like with a big budget because in that case I would have done like another deal and pay and maybe have extras or stuff. But we embraced like a very small production. Like I was doing like the clap and like the sound guy was doing the boom and I was doing makeup and I was the driver. So being like very small production, at the end the stadium was like really, they didn't bother like to let us shoot because we weren't occupying a lot of space. and we just like rehearsed a lot, prepared a lot, and then we went like to the real match.
Okay, so all right, in the scene in the stadium when the mother is starting to drink and the woman behind her, was that woman an actress or was she part of the crowd?
No, in that case, she was an actress. Like we cheated some scenes because when we could like shoot towards the grades, the like we had a little bit more of control. But when we shot towards the field, that is where it was like real match going on. So we shot like separate days, and we did cheat a little bit, but we had to do like only close-ups and like really close shots of the stuff, because if we open a little bit more, then you could see that we had like 20 extras or something like that.
Well, how did you handle the scene in which her mother ran onto the field?
Because we were like so enthusiastic about like our student film, we just like kept asking permission, and like we thought like, okay, the no, we already have it, but maybe we can ask permission and have this ending. I had an alternative ending if that was an impossibility, because it was really hard, but we just asked permission like, hey, can we use 10 minutes of the mid time, and they were like, yeah, yeah, if you want you can do it. And so we rehearsed a lot, a lot, a lot, and with the guy that threw her and stuff, and we put our own actors, and then all of a sudden like, it was like, okay, it's the mid time, we can do the shot, and we had like maybe 10 minutes to do the shot, like 3 or 4 times we tried it, and I don't know, we just had like blind faith and we were like really enthusiastic about it. We had like a lot of passion, so we were like just asking permission and insisting, and at the end it turned out well.
It, so she ran across the pitch during that action during a break in that game.
Yeah, yeah. It's like 15-minute break in football, so yeah, like I actually reminded, and I think like I don't know how we pulled it off, like I don't know how we asked the permission and how we got the permission, and like, then it was like pretty risky because it's the climax of the film, and it was like we didn't know if it was going to happen. But now I reminded like with a lot of love, because it was like an act of love and like blind faith, because we didn't have a lot of like leverage or cover. We just had like, okay, we have 3 shots, maybe we will make it, but
Well, what did
it was
all
very exciting.
I would say it was because what did all of the players on the field think, and then what was the reaction of the crowd? Did you get this big roar of the crowd when y'all were filming it?
Yeah, the first shot was incredible because like she started running and everyone in the crowd thought it was like someone real getting in the field, and they all started like shouting. But because it was like only one shot, we didn't even put sound, like it was only the cameraman and the actress and like the other actors we put. And then like the second and third take, like they realized that we were doing something weird and they stopped. But the first shot, like in general, all the shooting was like very, very exciting because like, we had like all this real energy of the people in the stadium. So we just looked at each other like, what are we doing here? Like, are we crazy? And I think we were a little bit crazy because
You have to
it
be.
did happen like that.
You
Yeah.
you have to be crazy to pull off something like that. Because when I watched the film a few times, I'm thinking, did they really film this during a game? And I just thought it was fantastic. But you have to tell me about the car crash. What was the symbolism? I mean, was it the mother's mental preoccupation or was it just controlled chaos?
It was like in the story that also happened in real life, so I think I was like really attached to that part of the story, which I wanted to go to the football stadium, and we crashed before arriving to the stadium, and then we went to the stadium to the football match and everything. But my mom in real life, she has ADHD, so she's like really distracted sometimes. Like when I was little, she forgot me like at the supermarket and stuff. So it was like a very important scene for me, introducing these characters into this situation, like into action, and having them like this simple discussion of like it's a left or it's a right, and like that ending up in a crash. That for me was like narratively important because the film started like with, like for me it was like maybe after the crash you think the film is going to be about that particular accident, but then it's about something else. But for me it was important like to start the action in, yeah, the conflict in action. Because also I'm like a learning filmmaking and it's a student film, like I wanted to try it, like just not to start it like in a simple conversation, but try to do it in action. And it's a really simple crash, like we didn't even crash actually the car, like it's like cut to black. And then we found like this crashed car that someone lent us, so we just made like the shot afterwards like when, like, oh, this is crashed. but
Well,
but for me it was important.
well, I thought it was kind of funny because in the film, she finds her parking space. The car's already wrecked, but the
Yeah.
whole focus was we got to get to the game. We'll deal with the
Yeah.
car crash later. And I thought, wow, you know, and but even before Olivia got her first period, we see in the film that she was excited about soccer, playing with her best friend. But then when her period started, it pushed all the excitement about soccer and life in general to the back burner. Was it a feeling that you were trying to portray of maybe lost adolescence and innocence, perhaps?
Yes, for me it was like when I was like 12 years old, I was really, um, how do you say, like infantil, like infantile, yeah, like childish. Like I was really fan of Harry Potter and like really into, yeah, like football and being like really fun. And I didn't want to grow up. So for me, this part when they do the plan and stuff, it's like very childish, and I wanted it to be like, okay, this is the imagination of like small girls. But then like the plan ends with her feeling something weird, and that is like another metaphor for me, like of, uh yeah, like this adulthood interrupting childhood and like being trapped into this like liminal space where you want to keep being a child but you're growing up. And like it's not that automatically when you have your period like you become a woman, but you start realizing there is like a larger process going on that is like growing up. And yes, I wanted that to be like a turning point in the story, but also like a metaphor of, okay, this child dream world is going to change it, because it does changes like through time.
I was wondering because um, it was done so well, and to think of a young girl when her first period happens, you're caught between I'm still a child, but then I'm in a way now becoming a woman. Even though some girls can have their first period anywhere from 10 to 13 to 17, depending on the person. And I think a lot of people don't think about the mental aspect of that time because, like you said, all of a sudden some things seem childish because now you're realizing, oh, I'm growing up. It's almost
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's almost like, well, a young girl or a young boy going through puberty. There's that change going on. The hormones are starting to show up. The thought processes, the different attractions are starting to come into play. And you just to portray this very beautiful in this film.
Yeah, I think it happens like all throughout our lives. Like even in my 30s, I'm like, okay, I'm having like another moment of growing up. But like particularly when you're a teenager, and I think that's why coming of age films are like so profound is because the change is wild. Like it's very explicit and it's very in your face. And as you say, like the hormones and like your body change, like everything changes like in a physical and in a mental way, like in a very fast pace. So, but for me, it's also like a metaphor of changes that happen like all along your life until you die, I suppose. Like when I was talking to my 90-year-old grandma, she was like, "Oh, I feel like I'm still growing up and having changes in my life," and I was like, "Oh God, that's right. Like you keep growing up and changing even like until the end."
Oh, of course. Now, I thought it was a bit humorous in the film that the girls were talking about other girls who had gotten their period. I mean, they sounded more like little horror stories, and it shows the well, and it also showed the lack of education either from the schools or from their mothers about the moment of growth in their life. Now, of course, I can't relate to what some girls have gone through, but where some of the moments happened, I guess, become a very embarrassing moment. But I'm sure many of them, like the two girls, were laughing about the others a few years later.
Yeah, I think there's also, even if you are educated, there's like this fear and this mythology going around, like, oh, maybe I'll get blind and maybe I'll faint and stuff. And even if you know everything about menstruation and they went to your school and taught you, like, there is like this like fear going around, like the mythology of menstruation that I thought was funny, like for the characters to be like really worried about things that of course don't happen.
Yeah, I thought the blind comment was funny. Or I'm afraid that I'm gonna to bleed out.
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I was like, there's still to this day a lack of education to, in a way, warn young girls that don't be alarmed when it happens, but when it happens, this is what's going on. So there's no reason to freak out, And so you showed that element in this film, which I thought was great. And and then of course she comes back to her seat, and that's when you see the look on her face. You have this whole soccer stadium full of people, a game's going on, and Olivia not one time pays attention to the soccer match. She's looking at her mother, trying to explain to her life just happened. But even her mother freaked out because the way Olivia came to her seat and didn't really come out and say it, she thought something had happened to the girls in the restroom.
Yeah, for me that scene is like the most important because it's like they keep fighting all the film, but in this scene like she's trying to communicate something to her mother and her mother is like in her own world and she's drunk and stuff and like she cannot listen to what she's saying, and then she realizes like what is happening and that the thing that is happening is making her like not pay attention to the game, which was like the whole point of the trip. So yeah, and for me that scene was really important, to that was something that I discovered in the edit, to not listen to the conversation they have, like to the final fight, because of the sound of the stadium and like they keep shouting to each other, but I like not to hear what they say because it's like it could be anything, but at the same time you, if you're like a spectator, like you can feel with your own imagination what your fight with your mother could be like in a situation like that.
Yeah, when her mom ran out onto the pitch, um, I still love that part of the film because I think that Olivia knew right there that her mom was cool. But at the same time, that her mom wanted to bring her daughter a happy moment because that's what they were at the game for. Um, but I just thought the whole scenario of her running out onto the field, I just thought that was real love.
Yes, for me, I wanted like to be an act of crazy love, because also the mother has like her own way of demonstrating her love to her daughter. And at the end, like, she understands finally that Olivia wants to get the autograph of Passarinho, and that the whole trip was like this plan, and that the plan was like stopped because of the period and stuff. And so like I don't know how we came up with that idea, but when we came up with that idea, we were like, okay, this is like kind of Adam Sandler-ish, but I want the mother like to go crazy and like to have this love demonstration that is absurd and crazy, but like full of love. Like that is the most important part.
Yeah, and I picked that up very, very quickly. And then you have that scene in the car, and which you had mentioned earlier, where Olivia's mother is explaining to her, which is the most touching moment. And how difficult was that scene to film? Because you kind of give us a surprise at the end, because she's not actually driving home, is she?
No, like that is the reason of the car crash, that I kind of wanted to experiment this narrative, like circular narrative, that you leave like something unresolved, and then like at the ending it gets like a resolution. And shooting it wasn't that hard, because we had like this car, and we shot like the whole scene in the car in movement. And then at the end we only made like that one shot. I think we didn't even put the characters. I think it was like my producer and someone else like faking being the characters. And we just had like one shot to have the yeah, like the car being pulled. It was complicated. I won't say it wasn't, but because we had like all the stadium stuff, like that part is like, oh, it wasn't that complicated looking it backwards. But the scene itself, like the conversation, I think I had more trouble editing it, like finding in the edit room like the right pacing of like the emotional core of the characters, and like the comedy, like the moment of the comedy. Like I wanted to experiment like this moment when you are laughing, so your guard comes down, and then all of a sudden like there is an emotional punch, and then maybe you're crying, or maybe you're moved because of something really emotional, but playing like with this comedy thing, that you maybe leave your guard down because you're laughing, and then suddenly like there is this like profound emotion that I wanted to explore about my love towards my mother, and my acceptance towards her being a little bit different from other parents.
Well, you edited that scene perfectly, because Olivia is saying, "Am I going to go blind?" She's talking about some of the things that we would watch and laugh at, but then you have that touching emotional moment when her mother is now teaching her what she wasn't taught when she got her first period. And then you go to that wide shot of the car actually being towed. So I thought it was a perfect way to end this film. And I wanted to ask you a question about the cinematography, because as I was watching the film, it has a film look to it. Why did you want to create a film look?
It was again something that we discovered in post production. Like when we imagined the shooting, we were like, we had like a very wild shooting, like, oh yeah, we want to do these shots and stuff. And at the end, because we had like the limitation of the location of the stadium, like most of the film is, and like the language of the film is like close up, close up, close up. That is not a bad thing, but maybe I wanted to explore something else with camera. So when we saw the film, like I think narratively it worked, and we worked a lot in the edit room, but visually I think we were trying to explore something else, to give it like some personality or some character. So we, like the DP tried to put this color correction filter that has like film look, And I don't know, like we really liked it. Like it started like to transmit something else from the image. Maybe also, I think that when there is like a film sensation, you get like emotional. I don't know why. Like maybe it feels vintage, maybe it feels like a memory, I don't know. And it was very intuitive. We just like tried it and we liked it, but it wasn't something that we thought during the shooting or before. Like it happened like during post-production.
Well, it worked because it gives the film a sense of depth. It like you said, it also gave the film a sense of a feeling of the past, and then the colors, I think, I don't want to say saturated, but the coloring came out great because I always love a film look. And shooting on film is expensive, and
Yes.
and you can pretty much almost get close to it in post, but your film for a lot of people may actually trick their eyes because they're going to look at this going, they shot this in 35 millimeter or 16. And but fantastic all the way around, Natalia. And now your film is already an award winner. What has been the adult audience's reaction to the film so far?
It's been really nice because I've been able to screen it in different countries. I was in Tribeca, New York, and then I was in Munich, then in Torino, and I even went to Serbia, to Kustendorf, to Costa Rica's film festival. So I've had like different audiences, and I had the opportunity to be there. And it's been really nice because people get really emotional at the ending, and I also get really emotional because of my own mom. So it creates like a reaction which I'm really proud of, like even more than it being like being awarded or stuff. Like having public that is like moved by something that I did is like for me like the top thing, making cinema. And even like many women like get to me and say like, oh, I loved your film. But also I like that sometimes the reaction of old men that come to me and say like, I just talked to my mother, your film reminded me that I need to talk more to my mom or stuff like that. And it's like really beautiful to see like that it's not only a specific film like for mothers and daughters and women, but like there are a lot of other people that feel moved or laugh at the ending and stuff. So yeah, that for me is like I'm really happy that it's been recognized and awarded. But when the audience comes to me and tells me like your film really moved me, that's when I feel like okay, I'm really proud of working so hard on this.
Well, you did fantastic, Natalia, on this film. Now, because and this is rare, so you were an official selection at Tribeca with this film. You're also an official selection at HollyShorts. A lot of films don't get to do both. And you did. Now, has this film become Oscar qualified yet?
Not yet. It's been in almost 5 or 6 Oscar qualifying festivals, but I think it's going to be very soon. But I don't know if I can talk about it. But I think it's really near of getting that qualifying.
Yeah, I understand. I know the multiple processes for that, so you don't have to say anything. I know how this works. So, but I am so impressed that this film has appeared at some of the best and the grandest film festivals, especially here in America and abroad. So I'm gonna keep my eye on this one to see how far it goes. And for you, when the audiences do see it, what do you want the audiences to take away from seeing the film?
It like for me, I just throw the film out and see what happens. But for me, the most like deep part of the film is like that connection with my mother. So for me, it's like if someone understands that core of the film, like other than the comedy and all the other elements in the football stadium, for me, it's like the core is a mother-daughter relationship and an understanding of your parents.
I love that. I love that. And ladies and gentlemen, Passarinho is a short film that where Olivia and Laura, two 13-year-old girls, have a plan to get the autograph of a Brazilian soccer legend, Passarinho. And however, before they can even put the plan into action, Olivia gets her first period. Now, the subject of menstruation is a bit out of my league, but Natalia Garcia Agraz's short film is authentic, it's endearing, and filled with a bit of humor as well. The acting is authentic as you feel and see every emotion in every shot. And the cinematography is wonderful as it has the look and feel of real film. Even the colorization of the short film is impressive, and I can't wait to see how far this film will go in this film festival season. And I want to thank you, Natalia, for sharing your film with me today.
No, thank you, and thank you for watching it and being like so detailed about everything.
Well, you're very welcome, and I am so happy to hear some of the backstories on this film and on how you put this whole thing together. I think that just makes the film that much better when we understand what the filmmakers go through. And you have quite the story to tell with this one. And so, ladies and gentlemen, when you get the chance, if you're attending HollyShorts Film Festival or a film festival in which Passarinho is being shown, make sure you're in the theater. You're absolutely going to enjoy this film. And ladies and gentlemen, you can catch all of the Bond on Cinema interviews at bondoncinema.com. Check out our Prime Show, our YouTube channel, and you can listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Audible, and more. So I want to thank you for watching because you're either going to see me at the movies or from the red carpet.